There we go. Beautiful. You all look handsome and awesome. If you don't mind being called handsome and awesome.
I'm so offended.
I'm deeply offended right now.
Should be. Everyone step back.
Oh my god, Jebro, it's 2020. You can't just call us handsome.
No. Trying. All right, stream. I'm going to grab a drink and some more and stuff. I'm going to be right back. I've got to turn those sound effects off. Yep, they've got to go off. I love it. Right, I'll be right back. We will be starting about 5 minutes. I shall return. That's to everyone, including people in the current podcast Discord. I need to grab a drink. Water, you know, for the throats and stuff and all the things.
Now, I believe at this point, the last time, Rooks, we made a joke that he was combing his hair.
Yeah. I mean, it does take him a long time to style it. So I don't know if it'll be 4 minutes or if we're going to probably be looking at like anywhere from 20 to 30. So I guess just buckle in.
He should have had us unmuted. We could have entertained his stream.
I know, we could have. We don't even need to do a podcast. We'll just do our own comedy roast of Jeb.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Guild Wars 2 podcast, The Lightbringers. Today I have with me the awesome Bird of Chess and the awesome Mukluk as well. He will do his own intro because I can't do the whole thing. Too long for me to get right. Two fantastic guests. Today we're going to be talking about lots of stuff, but there's been a lot of Living World. It's the end of the year. There will be one more podcast probably before the end of the year to talk about the whole year in its totalitarianism. The word? Wow. Can't do that one, apparently. Apparently, I'm just not there yet.
Well, we know he's not majoring in English.
Oh my god!
I actually went into some kind of English back in the day. English literature, though, so that's okay. I didn't have to talk it. I just had to write it, thankfully. But yes, I have two guests. Bird of Chess, who are you? Where do you come from? You don't need to tell us that.
Well, I was born in Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Rook, aka Bird of Chess. I stream over here on Twitch, twitch.tv BirdofChess. But you can also catch me now on YouTube, which has been a new thing for me the past couple months, which has been a blast. And yeah, I'm a big MMO player, lover, Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2, Arena partner, and a community builder. Really love getting everybody involved and connecting everybody over the games that they love and in a really welcoming community environment. So that's my deal.
Awesome.
God dang it, Jebro, I told you it's hard to go after her.
Should I say, like, I mean, we can try your intro if you want.
We can try. He's got high hopes.
I always have high hopes for the guests we have on here. I'm very meticulous with my guests. Hence why we have a lot of the same people on here. I'm very picky. Very picky. Okay. Mukluk, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Tell us what you do, when you do it.
Good to be here. I think what he was wanting me to say earlier, that I am Mukluk Douglas Bartholomew Reginald Esquire IV, and here, not with Sir Chauncey Van Stuffles III for once, here with Rooks and Jebro, of course. And I've been invited because, for some reason, Jebro values my opinion on the current Cold War in Tyria. And I can be found on twitch.tv/Mukluk, as well as Mukluk YouTube, and that whole thing is the name of the channel. If you need the best guides of Guild Wars 2. I'm so humble.
He is very humble. It's true. I just witnessed it just then. We have, so there's two guests other than myself. Don't forget that this podcast is, it's not weekly, it's not every 2 weeks, it's just whenever I kind of want to do it. Which is just the way I kind of do things now. Because that's just the way I am. I like to do things when I like to do them, and that's just the way it is. So there's loads of content on there, obviously on Anchor, the Game Event Podcast, general title thing, so the Elder Scrolls Podcast, Guild Wars 2, and my own thing, which is called What You What, Mate, which is where I talk about stuff I need to get out of my system. I've only done one episode, and it was about PvP, and I think that was enough for a while. And yeah, you can check all that stuff out on there. Anyway, more importantly, we had like kind of, I guess like kind of a big-ish release of stuff, PvE Guild Wars 2 wise, and Mukluk gives someone a weird look. So he was like, "You sure it wasn't that big? It was a while ago." It was just under a month ago, actually. First of all, have you both played all of the episodes up till now?
No spoilers. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Wow, hang on.
Mug, this is going to be a real hard podcast.
I just wanted to see if Jebro would panic. Yeah, I've played it.
No, I don't panic. I've done this enough that I don't panic. I just hang up. And then just play a previous one, and then we get.
Jeb's just like, oh, and then the podcast ended. All right, everyone. See you later. Have a good one. Bye.
Yeah.
Did a great job.
No, I think you just hang up on me. I think you'd still be here.
I've had to, exit. Mukluk leaves the group. Sort of cams out. We'll just start talking. It's fine. Okay, good. I just finished the latest one last night, so I wanted to keep it fresh in my head. So this is a weird podcast because there's a lot. It's not like. Okay, so talking from my own personal kind of side of things, in how I played the latest episodes. So if you're not too affair with everything that's going on in Guild Wars 2 at the moment, obviously there was no voice acting for a couple of episodes leading up to the one which has just come out, and that came out with the previous 2 episodes with voice acting in it. I did an episode without voice acting, and then didn't play the next one because I didn't enjoy it without the voice acting. And now we've got VA for everything. I played all 3 very recently. And that's the kind of way I did it. So that's the first question. I guess like Mukluk and BirdofChess, I'm not sure who wants to go first. I don't care. Whoever feels strongly about this. We'll go with BirdofChess first. Did you wait for the voice actors to come out on these episodes, or did you just play them as they kind of came out?
I actually did play them, and I think this is one of the few times in like an MMO release where I really I didn't mind it compared to a lot of other people, but like the huge caveat with that was that I played them live during that week, and then using the very expensive theater school degree that I got, I voice acted all of the characters, so I'm really getting my money's worth. And I didn't have a problem with it because I actually really enjoyed doing that. Now, it did make some things kind of hard because especially in some of those big pinnacle moments, trying to keep up with the text and like voice act it and also do the fights, like that was hard. Like, oh my gosh, I was with a party of people on stream and I was just like, have fun fighting this Jormag because I'm going to sit back here and instead I'm going to read all the voice acting out loud. So it was tough. And I think that some of those really good, really emotional pinnacle moments did get unfortunately diminished because of it, because it really was like a choice. Am I going to try and pay attention to this really wonderfully nuanced, dialogue that they've done where a mother is losing her son essentially, and, this huge unknown force is possibly going to destroy us? Like, who knows? There were just really beautiful beats that I think were really enhanced by the voice acting. But because I just voiced it live, it wasn't too much of a big deal for me. But I know a lot of people really did have some problems, trying to get into the moment while they were doing it themselves or just playing it alone,
Yeah, I had a go and I did some ridiculous voices, but it was just mainly me being just jokey and just taking the piss, really, to be honest. I was just like, I was trying, but I'm not clinically trained. Clinically trained? I'm not. Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm being clinically trained, I guess. But I'm not trained, and it's good to see that you're using your degree. I'm glad. I think maybe your experience.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's really fun. I even honestly, I recommend to people sometimes too, if you have a game that has like unvoiced characters for whatever reason, I recommend that people sometimes just read them out loud or voice act them because the lines are really different. And even just reading them yourself out loud or like acting it can I think, really connect you to what's being said in a way that sometimes when we're just like blasting through it, reading it, we don't get, which is why I think people also feel a strong connection to voice actors, right? Because they can form those emotional beats and connections for us. So for me, voice acting it was super fun. Was it also incredibly hard when there were like 6 char on the council all speaking at the same time and I was trying to do every single one? Yes. Yeah. But it was really fun to do that. I haven't actually played them.
Fun voice. I want to hear it. I need to hear it.
My what voice?
Give me one of the voices. One of the more random voices. I need to hear it. I'm sorry.
My Ritlock voice is very low like this, and he talks a lot, very deeply and passionately. So like I did like those things, you know, like I think Creasy I made a little bit higher and she was a little slyer. But it's just like, you know, you're trying to give the character something different. I'm not a trained voice actor, but you know.
Oh no, spot on. I couldn't tell the difference. Like when you did Ritlock, you really captured the chain smoker for 40 years thing. I could tell.
Yeah. It's weirdly intense too because the char get kind of, this is gonna sound awful, sorry everyone, moist. There's like a lot of weird weird mouth noises with them because they've got that.
I thought you were gonna say gravelly or rough, but I wasn't anticipating moist.
Well, they are gravelly and rough, but I've noticed with a lot of the voice actors that they do add a lot of weird, not weird, but mouth sounds, right? Because they're like talking around their teeth almost like their fangs. So I don't know, it's kind of fun because when you, I think, do have to almost fill in those voices for yourself, you start thinking about a lot of those details, or you start thinking about the characterization of different characters. Like I had a lot of fun doing a lot of the, you know, more subversive, remind me of her name, the leader of the sort of spy faction with the char?
Malice?
Oh.
Yes, I loved doing her because she like has a totally different feel than a lot of the other char. So it's fun to do it yourself, but I actually haven't gone back and played through with the voices. I did it all unvoice acted.
Okay. So maybe Mukluk then, like, did you do something similar? Did you do any voice acting, or did you play without?
Yeah. So when it first came out, and not because I've got a degree or anything, but because, you know, I mean, you guys are content creators. We're putting on a show up here. I'm trying to keep people interested. I'm trying to keep them entertained. And, you know, I've got all kind of goofy characters that I do on my stream, you know, with this stuff all the time. And they're like, use those for the voices. And one memory that really stuck with me is the moment where I forget her name, but it was the female char that was really important to Ryland. She's a hostage, and we're trucking along. And at that moment, I was doing this voice. And I don't remember who I was doing, but I was talking like this. And there was a line that came up, and I'm just reading, and I'm like, your friends are already dead. Oh, Jesus Christ. What the hell? Like, it was like a very serious, somber moment. And I was talking like that, and then I just got like a wake-up call. And I was like, guys, I got to stop this. I don't know what's happening right now. And then someone got murdered, and I was like, yeah, let's put Dennis away right now. This is not time for Dennis. But so that memory stuck with me. And another thing was when I mean, it's okay to spoil, right? We're past that.
Yeah, we're past that.
Okay, when Ryland sniped, what's his name? When that happened, I didn't see the subtext for the word bang, and I didn't even realize someone got shot. Everyone just started freaking out, and I'm like, what? Why are we upset? And like there was a dead body on the floor. It took me like 10 seconds to see it.
Me too.
Because I missed the bang. I have replayed it with voice acting, and now when you get to the bang, it grabs your camera and forces you to look at it, so you see him get shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you haven't got, and I think that's something that is important to remember as well, is that they've not had to do, is that with sound, and I used to be a sound bot. I used to do sound for like short movies and stuff like that. That's what I trained in video production when I was at uni almost 20 years ago. God. And you know, sound is you know, it grabs your attention. You know, it's gonna to a place potentially on the screen, to potentially, you know, just like atmosphere, whatever. And if you don't have that, like you say, you know, you're gonna miss something. There's a shot, you need to have like a blatant, like something needs to happen visually so they have to grab you like that. So it is good. So they even had to change that kind of style of things, which is why I feel like, for me personally, I just wonder whether or not, for you, as you're talking about, almost missing that gunshot, do you think that is VA important for Guild Wars 2 storytelling?
You can go first, Rox.
Yes, I mean 110%. It's funny, Muck, because I had the exact same thing happen, and we were live, and suddenly there was chaos, and I was like, "Why is everyone yelling?" And then I turned around, and I think I had literally just said something like, "Smoter, that guy deserves to die," and he was just dead. And I was like, "Wait, who killed him? What happened? I wanted to kill him. Who did it?" And then slowly I started realizing, like, oh my gosh, oh, he was here, and then this, and then this. So, like, especially in that sequence, and then the one that I mentioned earlier, where, like, when we first see the reveal of Jormag behind the ice, and, like, there's that whole combat instance that you're doing, and Cretia is, like, I love the dialogue there. It's amazing. Between all of the different characters and Cretia, and this, like, that conflict with, Ritlock and her, and the fact that this isn't just anyone, this is their cub. And, like, if you've read the story, the short with Ritlock, where you're getting that insight into how he actually kind of relates to the idea of being a father, which for the Char means something very different. But for Ritlock, who has lived amongst humans, like, and or the other races, like, he is starting to rethink the relationships. And I love all the dialogue they put in there. But boy, was it impossible to get all of that while also doing the mechanics. And I think it gave me a whole new appreciation for the immersive voice acting of Guild Wars 2, right? When they first said, we aren't going to be able to do voice acting because of quarantine stuff, I remember a lot of people had questions like, why? Why wouldn't you be able to do this? And some of the answers that came out were, well, we actually have a lot of omnidirectional and immersive environmental voice acting that has to be recorded in different ways to create the effect of being close or far or in the midst of battle, or all these different things that we can't do without our old setups. And at first I was like, really? And then when we got these episodes that were unvoiced, I went, oh my God, of course. Like, I didn't even think about the, like, layers of the voice acting in this. So I understand why they couldn't release them, but it makes a huge difference not having it, especially in those more action sequences. It's really hard to catch what's happening in the moment while you're also doing stuff yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with all that. At first, when it came out, it didn't bother me that it came out unvoiced at all. That was my initial reaction. I was just happy to get more stuff to play. And, I was playing through it, and I play a lot of different games that all fall under RPG, and many of them don't have voice acting. I'm perfectly happy just to read stuff out loud. So this was just more of that. But then when the voice acting was added later, and I played back through it with that, similar to what you said, it was kind of just like, oh wow, this has a lot of impact. And some of it was simple, like, wow, I did not think that person sounded like that. That was not what was in my imagination. And other things was just like, the situation I mentioned earlier, when the hostage was killed right in front of Ryland, there was like this big, like, musical build up, and then the sound effect, and then it was like dead silence, and then like a very, wet stab sound, just like it really built up the moment. And it was like, they did a really good job there. All that was missing before.
Yeah, that was, I was very hesitant about playing before. I was like, I want to try it just to see what it's going to be like. And then I didn't like it. I just didn't. I straight up didn't. I was just like, nope, not playing it until it's back. I can't. I missed too much. And I don't know if it's just I think where I've got used to it, playing a lot of Elder Scrolls Online as well, where everything is voice acted. And I think I've become very reliant upon it. I don't mind reading stuff out loud. I always do. I do it with World of Warcraft playthroughs and do it now as well. A lot of it isn't voice acted. But I think Guild Wars 2, because it's got so many things, like you both said, just happening on the screen, and a lot of it happens during action and combat. Like, especially the latest episode, because a lot of it is on the move while you're running through the first Dragon Response missions. That you just miss it otherwise. Like, if it wasn't there, I think I do. I do wonder, and I know during it, I know obviously COVID was a big issue and trying to get people to do the voice, obviously. I do wonder partly as well about the logistics and how they handled that and home recording and why there wasn't more of that done earlier. And it might sound harsh and critical, but I know a lot of games that did do that. And what the logistics were of why they weren't able to do that. And if it was because of just making sure that people were more safe. We know that ArenaNet are more of a definitely the company which are definitely more present and considerate of people, I would say, rather than focusing just on the product, which I think is probably more of the reason, which, you know, I obviously advocate for. But as well at the same time, you know, that kind of, I don't think it harmed them massively in the long run. I don't think it was a massively awful decision. I think they probably could have done it. It would have been a bit more effort and more time and more stress. And I don't think they wanted to put that on their kind of actors.
Might have been more expenses as well if they had to ship equipment to all these people.
Yeah, I would assume they would have equipment. If they're professionals, they've got that equipment. They must do.
Maybe it's just a thought.
Yeah, but it's definitely maybe more. Yeah, it's voice. I guess VA. I'm not sure. I think most people would have like some kind of area set up. Maybe they are more reliant upon going out. I'm not too sure. Yeah, a lot of people have that. It's true, but it's like soundproofing, everything else. I guess I think about that logistical stuff quite a lot. Either way, I don't think it mattered in the end, right? I think it got done and it all came out. And in a way, actually, I feel like it was better when it did come out. Like I said this while I was playing it. I was like, for some reason, I don't know if this is the writing, if they had more time to just flesh out the characters' voices or something like that, or they had more time with the script, or they had more time. I don't know. Maybe it was just the writing for these episodes was just different and it just came through that. I don't know when the voice acting came, but I genuinely felt more immersed, I guess, with the VA like this time around. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm not sure about the specific reason. It was just something I noted when I was playing through. I was like more connected to it. Maybe it's because I missed it. I don't know. And I had missed it. I'm not sure how you two feel. If there was anything where you were like, oh, feels like a lot better, or if the story itself was just more, or maybe you don't feel that way at all. Maybe you didn't connect to the story at all in these 3 episodes and you thought it was lame. I don't know. But like, I definitely thought the last 2 episodes up to Truce. Let's keep it separate, actually. To keep the chapter Truce separate from the other 2 episodes, how did you feel like that in terms of like general storytelling? Those 2 episodes were, barring Truce. I'm not thinking talk about that one right now because it's a bit different.
So you're asking about the stuff in Drizzlewood Coast?
Yeah, so the story from the 2 episodes, barring like the map metas and everything else, if you think about just story or just how you enjoyed playing through the episode, and maybe you could, if you want to put in the meta stuff as well, think that's fine. But did you enjoy it? Did you just enjoy the content from the flipping episodes? There you go. That's it. That's a better question, isn't it? Just generally, did you enjoy it? Did you have a good time, Mukluk?
Overall, yes. There was, I would say there's like, there was a lot of moments I enjoyed, a few moments I loved, and a couple of moments I hated. But I think any story is going to have some ups and downs like that.
You got to tell me the hate. What did you hate about it? When you say hate, you mean dislike?
I mean Bram. I mean Bram. There's no secret in my community that I hate that Norn. He's got a higher body count of our allies than most of the villains we fight, and I don't know why we put up with him. And then in Drizzlewood Coast, he proceeded to feed Owl's spirit to Jormag, power him up even further, and say, whoops. And I was just like, dude, I hate you with the fury of 1,000 suns. You have no idea. It just like rekindled everything I feel about that Norn. I've got more to say on him later, but I'll put a tack in that for now. Talking about the moments I loved. I don't know if this is a character race thing. As is common knowledge, I play a male Asura. My character was so sassy in this episode, and it had me laughing a lot. And do you remember Bram's like, oh, we gotta go, make these animals happy. And my guy's like, am I going to have to turn into an ox again?
Yeah.
And then Ritlock's like, you turn into a lot of things. And I was like, shut up, Ritlock. and you know, Bram's like, no, maybe. I don't know. And then you go, and then you get turned. You're about to get turned into an eagle, and the eagle shrine. I think it was eagle. Was like, you know, are you ready to prove your worth to me? And my guy's like, you are no less than the 27th all-powerful entity to ask me that question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, do what you have to do. And then, of course, there's the scene where Ritlock calls you, and then you just make an annoyed eagle screech, and he's like, you know what? I'll call back. Like, there was many moments in that. It had me laughing. And I love that. Comedy is very high up on what I value. I love that. So I very much liked those parts of the episode. But I don't know if that was an Asura thing or if all the races got that treatment, but my guy was full of sass.
I play Asura as well, and I got exactly the same. I loved it as well. Yeah, I agree. It was very good. I always find the Asura, I don't know, the interactions are definitely more, because sometimes I play stuff on my main Norn when I go for it, and it definitely feels a little bit more serious at times. But the Asura, I don't know if Rook, what you played through the main story, what character did you play?
I did Norn, and there's still the same sass in that bit, which was really good.
Okay, good. Okay, so you hate Bram. Everything else was okay. Is that the general? Can we say that? Is that your general feeling?
So, I mean, obviously, Smoder was a huge problem point. It almost feels like. And I'm just kind of putting this together right now on the spot. It almost feels like we have a situation that we could solve, but then we find out that the person in charge of the good guys is an idiot. Like, this happened with Flunt in Radasum. This happened, now with Smoder. Before him with Bangar. And Queen Jenna's fine. She just needs a pair of shoes. But I'm just suddenly realizing that a lot of the times it's like, oh yeah, let's just get together, go solve this problem, and then the guy in charge is like, let's not, and then 10 episodes later. So yeah. The thing with Smoder, I was ready to agree with him one time. I don't know if you guys remember, you were given the illusion of choice twice in Drizzlewood. One to drop the bomb or not. By the way, I've played through both. Either if you don't drop the bomb, Ritlock goes, okay, I'll do it. And then he knocks it out of your hand and down the drain. There's no choice. And then later on, you get to choose, go through the Norn gate or go through the front door with a whole ton of tanks. That's Smoder's plan. And I was like, all right, thinking rationally, we got no guarantee that Bram could get this door open. He's failed us 27 times in the past. I'm going to go with tanks. As like, for the first time, Smoder, I'm going to agree with you. And then he gets shot. And I'm like, God bless it. Seriously? Like, I was so upset in that moment that he got shot. I think more than anything else, I was just pissed.
I'm showing on stream right now. I remember the moment in the video. I like just marked it, and I was like,
professional editing.
Kind of shocked. I was very shocked actually that I actually did that.
I get it. Of course, it would take a lot more resources to make diverging paths for a Living World story. Like, I totally get that. But they tricked me. They made me think I was going to get it, and then they took it away.
That's the secret, you see. They do that I feel like they do that in a lot of games as well. I'm just like, I think I compare to Elder Scrolls Online a little bit more, I guess, again, in a place. But the thing is, what they do is, pardon me, they do it in regions where story does actually impact the choices actually do impact the zone and the instance itself and everything else. And the way people interact with you as you go around the world, it's quite unique. In Guild Wars 2, like you said, I don't know if it would work the same. I think people would be disappointed. Well,
remember, they sort of... I don't want to diverge your topic too much, so I'll just say this really quick. The core game, when we all choose our backgrounds with a new character, there's like dozens of different little paths. And then by level 30, they all come together into Order of Whispers, Priory, or the other thing that I can't think of right this second. And then those all come together into Zaitan. So I thought that was a really good system. I mean, you could have had go through the side door, go through the front door, both ends, but both end at Jormag. You know, just different teams. Malice goes with one, someone else goes with the other. It definitely would have been more production time. I'm just praising what they've done in the past. I was a fan of that.
I wonder if that was what they were intending to do, and then because of everything that happened, COVID and everything else, maybe they couldn't do that. I mean, that could have been. We'll never know, obviously. I mean, well, actually, maybe they'll tell us next year on the extra live stream where they really revealed a lot of stuff, which was pretty cool. I apparently have not got to the him being shot bit, so I'll wait until I get that. I was trying to find it on the stream, but it's just talking. There's a lot of talking. I didn't care. So, BirdofChess Rook, how did you feel about the 2 episodes themselves? Did you enjoy them generally? Did you enjoy the maps? Did you enjoy storytelling, voice acting? Like, just generally, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, I think even tying into like the question that you asked before the question, right?
Yeah,
I think that it's good. I think that we've seen the narrative team honestly really start to come into their own, and not just like the story's always been good in Guild Wars 2, right? But I think like in Heart of Thorns, for example, the story itself had this like very short element that felt in many ways very separate from a lot of the other like larger scale map stuff that you were doing. And then of course there's like the Dragon Stand meta, and there are these great events that kind of tie in, but it felt like there was sort of this disconnect in scale. And then like in Path of Fire, you know, we get, I would say, a more balanced sort of, you know, action experience and narrative experience. But there were still some parts where I think it wasn't quite as cohesive of a vision. I mean, it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But then we got into stuff with season 4 and season 5, where I really think we've started to see the team bring in like as much nuance as they can with the limited amount of time that they have as far as like episodic releases go. And then also try to really start integrating that on multiple levels throughout the maps and all of the other stuff. So like, for me, I think that Icebird Saga, even just starting with the prologue, in so many ways showed a really cohesive storytelling. I mean, the fact that like even the messages that you're getting over the comm from Drunk Bram, like even they tie into the larger story and what's happening. All of the little meta, all the different stuff that happens there, all kind of builds your understanding of like the characters and the world and the Char factions and all these different things that like really cohesively brought it together. So like in that regard, I think that this season has been a massive success. And don't get me wrong, Mukluk, I call him Bram Cracker and I hate it. Like I hated him when he was a bald potato man. And I hate like, oh, he drives me crazy. He makes such bad decisions. I started to like him a little more in the prologue. I started to like a little bit more of what he was doing. So he hasn't been quite as divisive for me. Because I think we've seen some growth there. And like, I feel as though his negative character traits at least make sense consistently for him as a character, even if I don't particularly like them, you know?
Yeah.
But Smoter was a hinge this season that I do have problems with. And like, I loved a lot of the map design. I love a lot of the ambiguity with Jormag. Like, I love the fact that if you do that like little collection on one of the maps, you find out that Jormag's been making people cannibalize each other. I love that if you do, like, there's all these great integrations. And when you get to like this Civil War and Drizzlewood, right, we see more and more with the meta event and all the stuff there. The story is just supplemented by the world versus world sort of PvE thing that they did, which then is also enhanced with like, you know, killing his allies and all this stuff. But in the midst of all of this, Smoter is a big question mark for me, because I did find myself throughout it going, these are the choices of a strategic, like an experienced warrior who's making strategic military decisions, who also has a history of backing human-Char relations? Like, and I don't know if I
every option was charge.
Yeah, and like, I would have almost rather, no, you're okay. I would have almost rather seen his character be more of a question of, like, whose lives are we sacrificing, if that makes sense? Like,
right.
I would have almost rather had him be more subtle in, like, oh, well, we got, like, I have this thing, we got some of our enemies. So are we going to release them on the field dressed in our colors and try to, distract the enemy line so that they kill them? Like, and then we have to make a moral choice, or like, are we going to do these things that are militarily strategically sound, but morally may have larger scale complications because of the perspective of the Char and how they view other races?
I have a newfound fear for angering you, by the way. Take prisoners, dress them in our colors, release them on the field in front of the enemy so that they shoot their own people and damage them psychologically. Bird. That is, I'm going to try to stay on your good side.
Are you okay? Are you both all right? Like, I would, like, you both going into so much depth into this story. You thought about this a lot.
I do see there's a question in the chat as to whether or not I play D&D. The answer is yes, I do. So if that answers anything, no, it's just that I don't particularly like how they've portrayed him. And I'll be honest about that. Like, I really had issues too with the moment, and I'm curious about what you two thought about this, because I was screaming at the part where Smoder kills a valuable hostage of war who literally could turn the tide of the battle, just kills her, and then everybody's like, oh, well, I mean, but he's important and stuff, so I guess we won't court-martial him or kill him in return. Like, I think that moment would have been so much stronger if we had had a true option there, right? Like, and of course, these branching timelines, like you were saying, Muck, they're incredibly hard to handle in MMOs. Final Fantasy XIV, for example, really does not even try to do it. Like, they've done a few little sort of semi things in side quests, but I mean, even just the core game of Guild Wars 2 is unique in the MMO community. Jeb, like you were saying, I think ESO has really done some super neat things with the idea of player agency, even on a small scale and on a larger scale with maps. But like, as always, it's tough when you have ongoing content, story, and narrative that like all sorts of people are playing simultaneously in a world that is constantly housing all of them, right? Like, there are certain limitations with design that are hard to do. But I really like the concept of what they tried to do. I just don't know if Smoder as a pivot point super worked for me. And I love all the other characters. I think all the other characters work really well. I think that like Malice's viewpoint is really, really well done and interesting. I think Crecia is so interesting. I think Ritlock in the middle of this so interesting. I love all the characters. And the leader of the fire, of the flames, of the, you know what I'm talking about?
The Flame Legion. I don't remember his name.
Flame Legion.
I know who you're talking about.
Somebody in chat's gonna get it. I think he's also really fantastic. I'm glad that he's getting more. But Smoder for me was like I think you needed more time to do something more complex with him, because he did kind of get
running around with them.
Ephraim.
Probably like should have been actually like with them in different places, like actually battling a little bit more, maybe giving a little bit of history as to why he makes these decisions, more harsh decisions, I suppose, unless I missed something. I think in a couple of places I did notice, especially in Truce, the latest chapter when that started specifically, and we'll start to move on to that. There are places in the story, and I think this has been something that's always happened in Guild Wars 2, and I don't know if it's because of different teams working on different things, or if it's people coming in and out. There is sometimes parts of the story and characters where I'm like, I don't know if they would have done that, or I don't know if this should have happened this way, or I don't know if, I could have done with a little bit more background here, or I could have done with a little bit more of a why are they an arsehole? Like just a little bit more building of some of the characters. I think there's so many at this point in time, it does become difficult.
Jebro wants a flashback of Smoder getting his bike stolen by a human when he was 9.
Basically, I mean, that would be cool. I was very shocked when he did that, when he killed the hostage. I think it was one of those things where I actually didn't mind it because it was so shocking, because it did really just make me have one of those gasp moments that I don't really get in Guild Wars 2 that much, in all honesty.
I
when he got
hated
shot-
2 seconds after that when she shielded him and saved his life. I was like, just let him die.
Well, yeah.
I was convinced that he was corrupted by Primordus the whole time. I was like the entire time. I was like, he's acting irrationally because he's being influenced by Primordus, and everybody in chat was like, "Rook, you are crazy pants. You are coming up with tinfoil hat theories faster than you can even back them."
That's not like completely ridiculous, though, is it? I mean, you know, we know that this has been a theme. It could have been. I mean, that could have been a thing. Like, you know, where we are now, that actually could have been quite a cool way to go. Actually, I think, you know, that's not a bad thought at all. I think that's good. But I think generally, like personally as well, and I don't know if you want to talk about anything else, Rick, that you enjoyed first before I talk about my opinion, because you just literally talked about a bit of the story and how you did not sure about the Smodor thing. So what else did you like about the 2 episodes specifically, or the maps maybe?
I think the maps are a blast. I mean, just in general, I love the design.
Right. It's map, isn't it? Is it map, or because they revealed the second half of the map?
Yeah. Right? A map with 2 parts, I guess. Yeah. Like I kind of consider them separate, but I mean, they are the same, right? It's, you know, it's a push. I think they've done a beautiful job, even sort of foreshadowing some of the eventual conflict, like we were saying with Primordus. Like, I mean, there's these little lava areas, there's these ice areas, there's these, like, visually, there's a lot of really cool design stuff. I also loved the eagle flying moment. I thought it was funny, but the music, like, I had so much fun with that. I was like, this is a little tiny mini game. But when you actually like turn into the eagle and you're soaring and that music is playing and you get this different perspective on the map, I was like, wow, like that's super cool.
Who did the music this time around? It's still McLean, right? I think, with other people. I don't know. I don't know either. Because normally he tweets out about it. I'm not sure. This one wasn't much of him. Maybe it's his stuff is amazing, but like the stuff that was in these episodes was ridiculously good. I mean, I'll talk about Truce in a bit because I don't want to. I'll separate it a little bit. But you're right. The music and the sound in general. I think the sound team's had a little bit of a change, but their sound's still always been epic. For anything. Like I was walking around yesterday in one of the Truce areas, and there was just this clanking of this machinery, and I was like listening to it, and I was like, "Wow!" And this is just amazing. They've shown us how they create the sound, and it's just amazing. It's the same with their music. Anyway, they've got very talented people in their sound department. They know that. I've spoken to about it many times. A fanboy on that stuff is annoying. So you're saying the maps, and we're talking about sound. I forgot about that was it an eagle, or did we was that the totem thing where you had to get back? Yeah, okay. Right. I remember now.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. I think they did a beautiful job. I think the maps have been really wonderful. I even like going back, I loved the light puzzles. I loved all of the little things that they worked in to give us something new and tangible and fun and interesting about the maps. I felt like it all worked in the larger scale of things. And I've really liked running the meta. I've done it like 10 million times now on those maps. And I really do enjoy it. I think it's fun. So if you hate it, I'm so sorry. But I've had fun with it. Partially too, because I just think for me personally, it felt like it really fit what was happening. You know, it felt like it fit appropriately in the story. It matches that like Civil War theme. I liked that they used the bosses to kind of further some of the narrative stuff. Like all of that I thought was really well done. And I liked overall the story momentum pushing us through to the end and how stuff kind of culminates. And I really enjoyed the story of this season, even with my Smodor complaints and Bram Cracker making some questionable decisions. I think that there have been some really interesting things that have been done. I think Jormag is really fascinating. I think that Ritlock, honestly, is also really fascinating, especially with some of the stuff we got recently. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there that is so good, and I've really enjoyed. So, yeah, that's my overall synopsis, is that, like, there have been a few maybe stumbles, but I think that overall it's felt very cohesive from a storytelling and artistic direction, kind of, with the way that they've done it.
Okay. Well, on screen for the stream, and if you're listening to this elsewhere, I'm actually just bringing up the end of. I believe this was the episode before the chapters, right, where Jormak is things are happening. Actually, this is the end of the episode itself. What blooming names! I'm so lame at names and remembering names of things. What was it called? Not Shadow in the Ice. Rain. Not No Quarter. What was the name of episode 4? What is it for? Man, I'm missing. Whatever episode this is on the screen.
Jormag Rising. Jormag Rising.
Yeah, well, both at the same time in unison there.
We're both reading chat.
Oh, okay, right, fair enough. Thank you, Obsidian. Appreciate it. This was great. I really enjoyed this. This was a good part of the really probably one of the best for me personally, like parts of one of the episodes I've had in a long time. Even just like, you know, the changing of Ryland and Bangar by being, you know, kind of rejected almost, but not at the same time, and like kind of Ryland being, and if I'm getting names wrong, I do apologize because again, I'm a bit lame with names. Being turned into the, you know, the champion of Jormag and everything else. And again, there is going to be spoilers in this podcast. It would be ridiculous to have a podcast about the story and not talk about all the things that are going on. But I enjoyed the fights. I enjoyed the general mechanics. I think some of the achievements in there, I haven't checked out some of the achievements yet, but I think some of those are quite cool in terms of just realizing that I completed them and being like, oh, okay, that was actually quite cool. Maybe a little bit difficult. I don't know.
I hated that stupid blood super soaker gun. Do you remember that?
Oh,
there was like the blood guns, and you had to vacuum up blood and squirt it at the enemy.
I don't know why I did, but it was like for some reason I was like, all right.
It didn't make sense to me. Like they're basically juicing with this stuff. They're using it like steroids, and I'm spraying it in their face like, ha ha ha, this will stop them. Okay.
Amazing. It was like Rick said as well, the meta was quite nice. It felt like you were really progressing. I liked the idea that the episodes went over one map and the map was revealed. I think that was a very good way of doing it, a different way of doing it, because I'm sick of maps getting added to this game. I really am. I'm over it. I'm completely over it because there's too many. I think there's more maps in. I want to even say that you know, it's catching up with WoW. I don't know. It can't do because it's been out for like double the time. But it is kind of. I think there's over 55 maps maybe. There might be 50 plus, something like that. Last time I counted, it's more now. It must be. I think it's a problem because they don't revisit the maps that much. And the reason I'm talking about that is because we're about to go and talk about the latest chapter. But yeah, I really enjoyed this last kind of part of the story, and you know, the Jormag Rising and everything else. But we might come back to this later as well because I've got some further questions. But what I want to kind of ask is, with the end of this episode in mind, and I don't know if this was just me, and I said this last night when I started to play the new episode. What was the general feeling when you came into? So if you don't know and you've just logged, you know, you're listening to the podcast or you're here in Twitch and you haven't played you know, what's going on, again, there's going to be spoilers. The end of the episodes was this kind of, you know, this build up into, you know, what's happening, Jormag, everything else. And then Truce happened, the chapter in the Ice Brew Champions 4 chapter finale thing, which is just, I don't even know what's going on. I think they've switched up what they're doing with their game and their expansion. Because me and Rook were there last year, right? PAX, right? This was 2019, wasn't it? It was 2019.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yes, 19 came before 20.
It does, sometimes. I don't know. Does it? I think 20's just been erased from my mind because it deserves to be. There's been some good things. And then, like, I mean, I got the opinion from what they were saying and the way they were talking about it, there's not going to be an expansion for a long time. There might not even be an expansion. From the way they were talking about things, they didn't feel like there was going to be an expansion. And speaking to them afterwards as well, I was like, there's not going to be an expansion. It's not. And then they came out with, you know, the Icebrood Saga and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, if this is going to be the place to announce an expansion, this is going to be the place to do it because they've done it previously. I think what they've done is they've changed. Obviously, they've changed their mind. I feel like they've changed their mind. I don't think they were ever going to come out with another expansion. And Icebrood Saga was going to go on to something else. And because they had all this stuff leading up, they had interviews, they had articles and blog posts. And again, we'll never get this confirmed. I don't know. About the fact that, you know, they were going to be doing it differently, as far as I remember. That's funny. Because I'm looking at your face as well. I know you don't think. I'm not sure you feel the same. But what do you think about that, Brooke? And what I'm saying, did you always think they were going to always think about an expansion? And the reason I'm saying this is because they have changed the way they're doing it. Because this is not episodes. This is chapters in a finale. So it's like a long episode spaced out over the coming months.
I actually felt almost the complete opposite of you, which is really, it's funny. But I think I was in the absolute minority, which is what's interesting. We had done some recording at the time, and because it was the first thing that we had recorded, I was trying to do YouTube stuff then. You did an interview with us, Jeb. We didn't quite get it up in time, but I did like a post-mortem almost after the event where I was talking about my thoughts and we recorded them. And at that time, I even said, like, at the event, I think this is almost the reverse of what everybody else thinks. I think they're doing this because they know there's an expansion on the horizon, but they can't give any news yet. So they're trying to get people hyped about this saga, and then we're going to get another, like, announcement about this expansion. So I was really feeling that. It just made sense to me, unless they were going to be, like, truly trying to go into more of, like, a decline wind down with the game. I was like, it makes, like, sense that we would be due for an X-Pack. We are overdue for one. They need to figure out what they're going to do with the future releases of this game. And it wasn't like I was wholly convinced that they wouldn't at that event say to us that we are moving to more of an episodic format, kind of like ESO, with the way that they sort of do, like, season releases, as opposed to, like, here is a full expansion. Yes.
And literal chapters.
Yeah, so it wasn't completely out of the ruling for me, but when at that event they didn't say that that's what they were doing, I was like, we have an X-Pack coming. And I just felt it. Like, I just felt it, and that they were trying to build more momentum from the game, like, for the game again, after this lull. And so it wasn't too much of a huge surprise. I was really excited to hear about it, but I was like, this makes sense. They would have to do an expansion if they're not going to be moving to some sort of new format, I do think that with some of this saga versus our past living seasons, for me personally, it feels more technical, that they are trying to get on a consistent release schedule. So we've had that, like, 3-month pace, and that they're trying with that to move away from the idea of the living season, which really isn't an accurate brand at this point. Like, it's not a dynamic living thing that's happening. Like, it was a cool initial idea, but there's really no longevity for something like that. We've seen that even with, like, like with season 1, it's not a living world. So I think they're moving now to this idea of sagas. And with that, they're reformatting to prepare for other future expansion releases, right? So, like, we get a big prologue, then we get these things, then we get little tiny chapters while most of our force is working on an expansion. And that's, like, the very last thing leading up to that release. Yeah. So that's just, like, my interpretation, and they could totally change it, but that's sort of where I've been at.
That makes sense. I mean, that's it. I mean, they would have had to have started that expansion at least shortly, or if not before they did the announcement of the Icebrood Saga, I guess. Also, Mike left, like, with the ninja leaving of Mike, obviously, when he went over to Crucible, director of the game at the time. And, I feel like, I don't know. I'm just not sure. I don't know if they. I really don't think they were going to release a next. Or were thinking about it at the time. But again, like the way you're talking about it, that also makes sense as well. So I have no idea. I would love to get someone to tell me from ArenaNet, and maybe
It'll
like one
happen.
day. I know it will never.
You'll forever wonder.
It might do, but I won't be able to tell anyone. That'll be the problem. But that is a problem. That's the main problem. So it don't even matter. So what was my original question? You don't happen to remember what the original question was. I think I kind of just talk and then I kind of just say someone's name and then they just carry on. I like these things to be discussions, you see. But going on from what Rook said, do you feel like there was always going to be an expansion kind of on the horizon? And is this... What do you think about the kind of change from episodes to... And it's not necessarily to say they're never going to do episodes again, because they might do. But they're doing it a little bit differently, this finale kind of thing. What's the difference for you between like the episodic kind of every 3 months to the now chapters, which is probably every 3 months as well, if I look at the timing? What is... Oh... Oh, I saw your face. The body language. Remember, I'm a training counselor. I've got
there we go. Now, does that hide it well enough?
It doesn't. You swiped your kind of.
What else do I have? There we go. We'll just do this, and then you could just get off my back.
Is that like I don't know? Is that a vitamin tablet or
it's like a potato? It's underground.
Oh, it's under. That's ground. Okay, cool. I was like, maybe it's just in a small pot of other beans. I don't know.
No, okay. So this whole thing where we're on, Guild Wars 2, Living World, Season 5, the Ice Brood Saga, the Dragon Response Mission, Chapter 27, Part 1, Truce. They're DLCs. They're all just, like, literally, when anyone new comes to the game and they're like, WTF is Living... I'm like, they're DLCs. They're DLCs. They're free if you're playing the game. You get them for free right when they launch, and you only have to pay for them if you're buying ones that were in the past, but you can buy them with in-game gold. That's how I try to keep people from running away from the game. They're DLCs. Like, all this Saga and Champions and Living World, it's branding. It's branding. It's branding. It's such a waste, in my opinion, to spend any thought on this. It's just like I've been a content creator for Guild Wars 2 not nearly as long as you guys have, so I still feel like you're my senpais in this. But
yeah, I mean your main focus is Guild Wars 2. This is what you do.
Yeah, so
you know what you're doing.
But that said, Guild Wars 2 has a history, and this history predates me, of picking up an idea and then putting it down and trying something else. Dungeons, PvP and World v World, it feels like that sometimes. Fractals, we thought they'd abandoned, but then they threw us a token fractal this year. Strike missions, now that they've announced Dragon Response missions, are they done with that? Raids, we just celebrated 365 days since the last raid came out.
Oh, is it really been a year?
It has just passed 1 year since Wing 7 came out. And
oh, wow, I did not know that.
So they've got a history, and then... Oh my God, advertising. They had the taxi thing. They had the go to Quiznos. Some of you've never heard of it and get a fun pet.
You're going way too far. If you
I'm just saying.
Everything's okay, because that was genius.
Yeah.
That was
so I love the game, but they have a history of, and I'm going to say this as constructively as possible because I don't want to lose my partnership, decisions I don't think are the best. I'm just flabbergasted sometimes by what they say.
I mean, I do agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of agreement about the methods of advertisement and their marketing. Definitely has been an issue in the past. I think they've had a very consistent flow of people in that role.
I think I went too off the rails there. What I mean by that is, like, you guys are talking about, like, oh, they were planning an expansion. Oh, they were doing this the whole time. I don't think they think that far ahead. I've lost my ability to have faith that they are thinking that far ahead. I love their work. I love the game. I don't think they plan that well.
And also that doesn't necessarily mean it's always I mean, I'm talking about general times, because creativity is some of the best creative things happen organically as you go through them. But if you're running an MMO in a live game service, you do need to plan things, obviously. And sometimes those decisions can change on the fly, and sometimes they're good. So maybe if they weren't thinking about running an expansion was, a twist of fate, I don't know. Maybe it was planned, like kind of what Rook's saying, and the way they've done it, we've just been surprised, and that's also fine and awesome. But yeah, I think it is very long-winded how they're changing now, and I think that is a very good point what you say, Muk, in terms of the theme of them changing the path of what is going on in their game, because sometimes you're like, cool, there's this legendary armor and it's in raids. That's so awesome. This is always going to be a thing, surely. And now there's been a year since the last round. I didn't even know that. And that's such an epic part of Guild Wars 2, but then they realize that their player base is not accustomed to that kind of content. In all reality, we're talking about a tiny proportion of the community, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it can be entice new people into the game as a main feature, as a main thing, which I don't think they ever really tried to do. And again, it could be a part of this whole switching from thing to thing, from fractals and dungeons and dragon response missions now. And yeah, I know a lot of people don't care about raids, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I haven't done raids for a while. I got my armor and I left it.
I mean, I love raiding. I would love a new one, but I mean, I agree with everything you said, Muk. Like, their communication of content and how they structure or continue to support content is one of the biggest hangups for the community, because people then are just left to sit there and be like, well, they don't care. Well, they don't care about this. Well, they just don't. Well, I guess that's out the window. Well, I was playing because of this, so when do I get more of it? And it's something that needs to be addressed. And they've been doing it better sometimes and then falling off the radar with other things other times. And it's getting more consistent, but then there are big holes. And it just leaves the community to wonder, compared to something like Final Fantasy XIV, where they are incredibly rigorous with their communication. It's like, you will know that this patch will come at X time and it will contain these things, which on one hand is good for just security. On the other hand, I agree with you, Jeb, in that I think that Guild Wars 2 is an MMO that surprises me the most out of any that I play.
Spontaneity is the word.
Yeah, there's a spontaneous sense in what they try and do. And I love that, because it means that we get breakthroughs that are really good. But with the stuff that is already good, or that is a foundation of MMOs, they need to make it clearer about what's happening. And then they need to communicate better what there is in the game to prospective players for them to want to come in, and not just through Quiznos subs, which I love, but there's no more Quiznos here.
Amazing. Yeah, or tea. A bubble tea, was it? Was it the bubble tea? That was an interesting one. They definitely do things different at times. Again, doesn't always hit the mark, but hey, we don't know the numbers of things that occur, and maybe they're successful and that's why they keep doing them. That's another conversation. I don't know. I'm not a massive bubble tea fan anyway. It's okay. It's not bad. I've only had one, so maybe a bit harsh to judge there. I don't know. Yeah, they do try a lot of different things, and I've said this a long time ago. I think when I used to be on my Teapot stream podcast years ago now. I always talked about how an MMORPG and also game developers are like your parents, and this relationship between your parents, and how communication is massively important in terms of how you want to be. Do you know, you're laughing.
I'm laughing because my first thought was, ArenaNet's way more abusive than my parents.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, a lack of communication is a way of abuse, I suppose, in a way. But God blimey, Jesus, I'm not going to abusive parent. I can see it now. Latest episode, the Lightbringers, episode 8, ArenaNet, abusive parents. Not sure I'm going to name the episode that. But communication is very important, and it doesn't matter if you are going to be spontaneous and create something different and unique. You can do that in your game. You don't have to always be like, here's a new thing and it's crazy and awesome. It's going to be amazing. Come and look at it. But that also can be a very fine thing to do. But the thing is, I think a lot of their communication comes through as confusing for a start, because like you said, like Mukluk, I mean, if I read through what I've written, I had to get the wording right. I can't remember what it's called. It's like you say, it's the Icebrood Saga Champions finale of Wales. Everyone goes down the pub. We have a pint 7. It's just really convoluted. And how do you explain that to a new player? How do they get access to this? What is going on? What is the release schedule? Then you've got these other events that just come in during the year, which feel like they're every month. And then there's other stuff. And then you're like, how do I change gold to gems to then get access to this other thing? How long do I have to log in to get access to this stuff, which is free if I have the game? Do I need both expansions? Do I need to have some kind of, I don't know, thing to pray to in the corner so that I get access to a raid? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's just
see right now you think you're ranting. I'm just writing it on future videos.
but I can see how that's confusing to new players. It's confusing to me, and I've been playing since beta, and it's like that might just be because it's me, and I can be a bit dense sometimes, and that's fine. I can admit that. But like, it is a problem. Communication is an issue, but at least we have some stuff. We have a future planned. This is probably the most information we've been given about the next. Let me just quickly see how long this is. How long? Where's that little? They've got that. Okay, May 2021. We know when stuff is. I think this is the only time we've ever had this much information about the future content releases of Guild Wars 2. I think it is actually the other than the PvP Pro League season, which was mapped out. This is the most information we've had about future content about the game over an amount of time. I'm pretty sure. But the thing is, half of that is just normal. Winter's Day, obviously that's going to happen. Lunar New Year, obviously. Super Adventure Box. I can't even believe that's coming out again in like 3 or 4 months. That's bloody insane. And then you've got Judgment in May 2021. And then predictions for expansion after that, if it's going to be an expansion. I've just written new expansion Kunavang randomly, just as a reminder. And, if you think about it, the first episode of this Icebrood Saga was over a year ago. Over a year ago. There's actually been not that much stuff that's come out in the previous year. And I'm not sure if you lot, like even if chat or anyone listening ever thinks about that. Does it matter? Does it feel like there hasn't been that much that's come out up until this point? Does it matter? 2020
looking back on it,
I don't know.
Looking back on it, it definitely can, because they did Biora in 2 halves and they did Drizzlewood in 2 halves. But if you look back on it, it's just like, wow, Grothmar, Biora, Drizzlewood, they added 3 zones in a year. But that was 5 different releases just because of how they chose to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I mean, I will.
As well, I just want to add that as a caveat. Like, the COVID has been a thing this year. Obviously, things are going to be slower. Obviously, there's going to be less. But has it been different to previous years?
It's every 3 months, right? Don't they usually do Living World every 3 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like, this is the thing. Until our most recent one, I didn't necessarily feel like there wasn't anything. Like, and we'll talk about the most recent one too, with the chapter 1 of the Icebrood Saga Champions. We went to Quiznos, but they didn't do the promotion deal, and then we got Boba instead, but they didn't do it either. So I subtext 5 of no. I think that I've always looked at I love that you call them DLCs, because that has just solved so many problems for me in explaining these. I've been calling them miniature expansions. But DLC would be the accurate way to do this. Or like that they are like, they're almost, because
Well, everyone else calls them
I
as
mean,
well.
if you say like free on release DLCs, everyone immediately gets what you're talking about.
they know. And like, that's the thing though, because we can sit here and be like, well, okay, it's been a year since we started this whole process, right? But like, similarly, most other patch sort of cycles for other MMOs, it'll probably be like a year until you get the next expansion. But with that, you are likely only getting like instanced content. Maybe you're getting some kind of new optional grind zone. Maybe you're getting some kind of new thing. But Guild Wars 2 is ambitious in that we get this, like, we get new masteries, we get new maps, we get new story, we get new, like, they really aren't quite the same as like other patch cycles. They really are more, like you were saying, like DLC or like miniature expansions. So I didn't really feel as though we were hurting, and especially compared to Final Fantasy XIV as well, which like with the release in quarantine and how different companies have dealt with it, it's been really different. But like, we had all of our schedule for every release and everything in Final Fantasy XIV is now 3 months after. There was 3 additional months of dead space that they took during quarantine. And now even things like expansion release, people are anticipating it will all be 3 months back. So there were like huge swath. There was like 6 something months where we just like barely had anything in Final Fantasy. Whereas in Guild Wars 2, we didn't have voice acting, but they delayed 2 weeks or something like that. It was much shorter.
Yeah.
So I haven't really felt like it has been less than usual. I haven't really felt anything like that until we hit this chapter that we just got. And that one, I have some thoughts on.
Okay. Before we go on to that, did you want to add anything to that, Mark, previous to, without going into
the no, I have some thoughts as well.
Go on.
Oh no, I think she opened the floor. She can start. But I anticipate I'm probably going to be agreeing on a lot of this.
Oh, no, wait. Not talking about Truce, not yet. But in addition to what Rook was saying about previously about, the amount of content we've had in the last year.
Okay. So on that topic specifically, I'm content. I think that it's a bit unrealistic to expect a game that you don't even pay a subscription fee for to constantly push out more things for you to do on a non-stop basis. Like, yes, my name is Mukluk. I'm a gamer. Like, yeah, I'm a gamer. I get it. I would like more and more and more of what I like to put in front of me, right? I get that. However, as an adult, I get, they got to pay the bills, and I'm certainly not throwing them $15 a month to do that, so I should temper my expectations. I think that the way that they chose... Are
you assuming that they're adults playing Guild Wars 2 right now?
My 8-year-old plays it, so not all of them.
He definitely probably has a more mature outlook on the way Guild Wars 2 is run than most of the community, I would argue. I think your view is very mature and very similar to mine and BirdofChess's as well in that. And I would hope most of the people are probably listening to this, but maybe not. In that, realistic, you can't do that. Like, It's just like, the game is ridiculously accessible. You can pay, you could pay $15, couldn't you, recently on that sale for 2 expansions and get access to a lot of content. And obviously, a lot of what you're paying for really is going to be in gems to try and catch up with the living story. But again, you've got the option of gold. And it's like, I think a lot of people forget that because they're just playing Guild Wars 2. And they're like, well, like you say, you're paying $15 a month, and that's before tax. So it's like $16.50, $16.70, or depending wherever you're living. So it's getting close to $20 a month for WoW. And, I've just started going through that process myself because I'm trying to compare all the different games right now. And you got that Final Fantasy 14 as well, where you expect, you're paying for a service. Why am I not getting this thing updated every so often? Yeah. Which I think is a right that you should have, and you pay for expansions on top.
Really, all I was going to end with on that is I like how they chose to do it, because they could have just given us a content drought for the entire, the pandemic, whatever timeline they needed. They chose to continue releasing stuff and come back and add voice acting later, which from the game developer perspective, that would help prevent bleeding out players, because as people get bored, they find another game to play in their free time, And I think the way they did it was probably, of the options they had, the smartest way to do it.
I agree. I think even though I prefer it with the voice acting, and I did delay, it's the first time I've ever delayed playing a Living World episode. I think for me, I'm obviously not going to not play it. I think you're right. You know, people still need something to do, so they don't like bleed out, like you say. I do wonder about the amount of people that are playing Guild Wars 2 as well. But haven't checked the numbers quarterly stuff. I'm not even sure if when the next release of that information is coming out in terms of purchases. I guess that's new players and everything else. But anyway, another conversation. But okay, cool. We're all kind of on the same page. So I can't remember the title that BirdofChess came up with. I can't remember the title I came up with. I'm sure Mukluk can come up with one as well in a bit for the latest chapter. Well, latest chapter for the first chapter of the Blood Icebrood Saga. Blood? Where the hell is that coming from? Icebrood Saga. So the episodes are over, or I guess are kind of. And now this is the finale, right, of the Icebrood Saga, which is now separated into 4 chapters. Now, I played this last night. First thing I thought, and I was thinking, have I missed something from the finale of the last episode? Randomly, and maybe I did through some voice acting and something else, and I don't know if you guys can, if you can shed some light. All of a sudden, right? Well, Ryland's there.
Ryland, yeah.
It's just standing there, and all of a sudden we're talking about an alliance.
I think a lot of that is because of the additional Bengar dialogue.
Was that the reason?
That would be, at least for me, and it's kind of tricksy to do this because I waited for all the dialogue to build up so that I could listen to it all right before, so that if people were there for story, we could see it all together. But it's a little tricksy to initiate it. I had to leave this and then come back, and then I had to click on, and then his dialogue starts. And Bengar does actually have a lot of setup about what has kind of been happening and what sort of things. And there are moments between almost everybody, like Crecia and Ritlock and everyone talking about Ryland and talking about what happened in the last episode. I was also really confused the first time that Ryland showed up, though, because he just appeared and I went, wait, is that Bengar? No.
yeah, I thought it was him. I was
like, that's a different Frosty Boy. What's up, Frosty Boy? We're not going to have a moment together? You're not going to just be like, yo, it's me. I went and I turned into a cherry-flavored icy, but hey, I'm feeling good. I feel like there could have been some beat there.
Today with your language. I will, and your transformations of things. But look, you're right. Look at this is the last scene of the last episode. And I'm like, if we've gone from this, and then all of a sudden, it becomes the champion draw mag, and then it's been this. I was just like, if you didn't do that dialogue bit, going in and out, of the instance, which I technically did not do, even though I knew about it, I forgot. It's a jarring experience, to go in there and be like, well, it was for me. I was like,
even if you have done the dialogue, which I did it, but I did it spaced out over as it was released. I didn't do it all yesterday. Yeah, I did it as it was released. Even if you did that, it was still the hell are you doing here? Yeah, he just shows up and he's like, hey, so there's a bigger bad guy now, so we're gonna team up now. And I was just like, how did you make it past the guards without getting shot on sight? And then, Bram said the first funny thing he's ever said in his life. He's like, can I have my bow back? And Ryland's like, no.
Yeah, that was actually good.
Yeah, I would have liked it if they had put something in where, even at the start of the episode, we're communing through Bengar, and then she says, allow my emissary to enter your halls.
Arrange a meeting.
And then, yes, and then, you go. I didn't, all that said, I didn't dislike Ryland in this episode. I actually thought he was super fascinating. And the little things that we get with him talking about his justification for doing this and in the response missions, I think is cool. But it was confusing to me the first time that he suddenly appeared. And I was like, oh my God, where did you come from? Why are you here right now? And why are the Asura so cool with this? And you ask somebody, why are you cool with this? It's I don't know, knowledge is knowledge. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, I think, and there's definitely something where, you know, we've had the earthquakes going on in Tyria and everything else, which again is one of those kind of silent mini lead up events, which not many people I feel know about. If you come, and this is where I think part of the confusion is for me, is that their game does appeal to, there are a lot of people who come in and out of this game. They'll play a living story and they'll stop and they'll come back for the next one. A lot of people don't experience that build up of like the earthquakes around Tyria or the speech between those little bits, which actually do have a lot of meaning to what happens then in the story sometimes, because I've not experienced one of those earthquakes because I don't play enough in the open world.
I play for 4 hours every night, and through the worst RNG, I never saw one.
I saw a ton of them, and I thought my game was glitching. This isn't a joke. I thought my game was bugging. And part of this too, I think, is that I don't know if you see them if you have screen shake disabled. I'm not positive, but I don't have screen shake disabled, which a lot of people have been like, why don't you have this disabled in the game when I stream it? And I was like, I try to give a warning if something pops up, but I think that's what it was, because I'm standing out there and my screen keeps shaking. And I had this moment where I was like, oh my God, I really should disable these. Is this glitching? Why is my camera shaking? Nothing's happening right now. I'm not attacking anything.
As a ranger, every time I hit Greatsword 2, which is the maul, the bear comes down, it shakes the world if I don't have that turned off. So
you've got that turned off.
Oh God, it's a 4-second cooldown. Yes, it's off. It is off so hard.
There you go. So that's why. But then should there be another should there be an audio cue or something else which, you know, would...
I think there is. I think there's a rumble, but because I've seen that shaman has put clips of it on Twitter, and so has Noxy, and it's like really faint. But you've got to have like your settings turned loud, looking off into the sunset, sitting there, facing due east at 3 p.m. on a Lunar New Year. You know, it is noticeable if you're looking for it really hard.
Okay, interesting. So there is a little bit of a jarring experience of kind of Ryland being there a little bit, but then you say there are some ways to kind of explain this. I mean, like you say, I mean, again, it's nothing to do with Ryland as a character in the episode, because I think he does reveal some. I mean, I think most of the characters, when they have issues in the game, or they're a little bit naughty or whatever, most of it's to do with mummy or daddy issues. In all honesty. I mean, that's what's about with Ryland all the time. You know, he hasn't been noticed all this kind of stuff. And sorry, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm just really sad now that we didn't get a cutscene with him at the beginning, where I could say to him like, Ryland, you've been a little bit naughty.
I'm trying to be really like, I'm not trying.
Your behavior in starting this civil war, son, is just a little bit naughty.
If I had been in your chat, I would have been like, Rogue, stop flirting.
Amazing. It's just a little bit annoying. But I don't know. He was good during the episode, but then I don't know what I was going to talk about now.
I'm laughing at chat. You can't stop Rook, Mark.
Obi's tried desperately for years. It doesn't work.
Like, it makes it sound like you flirt with every char you see, and I'm just not privy to this.
I would not flirt with every character in a video game. I would never. Not Bram Cracker, at least. Not him.
All right, we're down to the 6 billion other residents of Tyria. Got it.
They're all fair game. But yes, Ryland's introduction is a little bit strange. But I think that's a fundamental problem with this whole episode. Like, we got good information that is kind of building our general understanding of the dragons and the process, especially with being a champion or being, the emissary, or being like, there was definitely some good information in there laying the groundwork. However, for the first time this season, I did find myself kind of going, that was it? I thought we'd have some kind of moment. I thought we'd have like some kind of like cliffhanger, or like okay. Well, no, I mean, I know a little bit more now. And it was just a little tough. Like, especially after some of these. Yeah, like, And that kind of felt the same with this Ryland situation, where again I was like, whoop, oh, he's here. Wait, what? Like, it felt like we needed a little more padding with the story on this one. And it was really one of the first times, even with my issues with, all the shenanigans that happened with Smoter, like at least there I still felt like we had a pretty well-rounded overall experience and story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This one just it felt a little bit like I was waiting. I was like, okay, so what are we leading up to? And then it was just done, And I mean, it is chapter 1, so I don't think that it's supposed to be a whole arc. I think that all these chapters are supposed to be eventually kind of like, a long form.
This is an overarching.
Yeah, like an overarching momentum that will culminate in the final one. But it does mean that at the time of playing it, it feels like, okay, well, I wish we had a little more than that, which is kind of a bummer.
I would love to know how chat felt about this. When you played, general comments. I did really like the clash between varieties. Okay, that's during. But how did you feel at the end of the chapter, chat? As we were talking about, I'd love to know how you feel.
Are we talking at the end of Truce?
The end of Truce, yeah. So the end of the chapter, just when you kind of done the oh god,
I was
anger is building.
No, I was confused. Like the last part, it says like, go talk to so and so, and then she's like, what's up?
I didn't know who.
What's up? You told me to come talk to you, and she's like, I don't want to talk to you. And it's like, what? And everyone's like, I think that's the end. And then there's that timer that says come back in 7 days, and it gets to 0, and then it's like, Y2K. Oh, nothing happened. And it was just confusing. And so then they, there was a lot of feedback on that on the ArenaNet forums. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but then they did an official post like, sorry about the confusion. The 7-day timer is the countdown until the start of the invisible second 7-day timer before we add another thing. And we're like, why didn't you add a 2-week timer? Or just no timer? So it's like, when we don't usually expect content patches twice in 1 week, but you guys put this timer here, and it was just like nothing. So, okay, fine. So then I made a video, because, easy content. I made a video on like, hey, spreading the word on clearing up this confusion. They did this post. And in the comments of that video, let's say there was like 800 comments, there was like 3 guys that were like, I don't see how anyone could be confused about this. This is as simple as putting butter on bread. Their jowls probably shaking. But like everyone else was like, oh my God, thank you. And, like I myself didn't understand I had to spend those tokens, and I was hoarding them like a dragon. And then, we missed the community event because from reading the comments section of that video, there was 1,000 other people doing the same thing I was and hoarding those tokens thinking, oh, maybe I could buy a cool sword later on. Nope, we just ran out of time because we were supposed to spend those as soon as possible.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was so bummed because
that's why.
I was like, oh man, everything about this was such a disaster from a design standpoint. It just was, and I hate saying that. But it just,
look at this.
I usually try to stay as like a voice of reason with a positive twist. You know what I mean? Because I think there's so much negativity. But like in this case,
I like this side of you. Bring it. Bring it.
In this case, what a design disaster. Like, it's absolute nightmare. It's like, you're right, Muck. Why is there a timer? Because if you put a timer in something, people are going to assume that timer leads to something. So if that's not actually a timer for a thing, then like you need to either put the actual amount of time, or it needs to very clearly say, these 7 days, we need to, as a community, rally to defeat these dragon points. So blah, blah, blah. And you need to spend those tokens. And then you're like, oh, I understand. But I mean, like, how is anybody supposed to understand from here 7 days? And everybody in my chat is like, we finished the story on stream. And I'm like, yay. And everyone's like, if you feel unsatisfied, there's more coming in a week. And I was like, oh, that's where the ending of this episode will be. And then the next week hit and we got the blog that was like, whoopsie. And I went, what do you mean, whoopsie? like, I'm over here this whole time. Like, everybody be patient. More stuff next week. It was just such a huge mess. Like, and I think it goes to show, like, this kind of thing is neat. I actually don't dislike the fundamental idea of like, hey, we're releasing this in smaller chunks, so we will have trickle content that like is paced over things to tide you. Like, that's fine with me, but it needs to be absolutely clear what is happening, what we can expect, what you need to be doing. Because I did the same thing you did, Muck. I hoarded all my tokens because I was like, oh, I like this one shiny axe, but I want other shiny things. And I just didn't buy anything from the vendor. I didn't get any. I was like, I'm just going to wait.
And then we failed, like, as a community, we failed the community event. And we got to stage 3 out of 5 because so many of us were holding our hoards.
I just didn't know what I was supposed to be spending, where. Yeah, and then there's the fractal event that was also running, and then and I was just like, I stay in chat people.
Is that the boss event that was going on that you had to do to fill the bar? How did you fill the bar?
So you would, when you spent those tokens,
right.
you could get the token from doing a direct response mission, or you could buy a token by spending resources like lumber or ore or something, and then you get the tokens, and then you could spend the tokens on anything. You could buy a crate of random resources, a pattern for the worst knife you've ever seen, whatever. And as long as you spent like 5 tokens, you would get the treasure chest at the end of the community event. That was the intent, but it just wasn't explained. The end result was, it was like the Gates of Encourage opening in the original World of Warcraft, but it was like a caffeine-free diet 0-calorie version that had no instruction manual.
So Elder Scrolls Online does a similar thing to this, actually, where you have to do... I think the one I remember the most was probably actually... chat will remind me of this, but Somerset, which is one of their chapters, which is one of the expansions, the house. And that was for something else as well. I think it's for Skyrim. Greymore. And basically the whole community has to fill up this bar by doing something. In ESO for Somerset, it was literally just getting Pathfinder, which is complete map completion. So you find all these different waypoints and different stuff, you explore the map, and the community unlocks a skin. They unlocked a new mount, they unlocked a new pet, and they unlocked a house, because ESO has in-game housing, which is pretty damn epic as terms of rewards, because this is stuff which obviously people can buy for money. And anyway, obviously if they convert, anyway, people got free stuff. But this was on Twitter, this was in game, this was on on the launcher. It was in their news feed when you log into the game. There's a big news feed when you log into the game. It's in the bottom left hand corner when you're in your character select. It's in the middle of your screen. You have to click the X to get off this of all the events that are currently going on in the game, and it tells you what's happening. And it's just like, do this thing. Just have an events panel, current events, I don't know, something in the game, just telling you, there's an automated PvP tournament coming up in a few hours. There's this event going on. Buy the new expansion. Do this kind of stuff. It's all in the store. And it's not that well presented, in my opinion. I feel like it's a community. I feel like a lot of what we've been talking about today is communication and lack of, or even not even lack of, but method. I don't know. Method, whether it's not working. I honestly don't think it's worked for a long time since Heartthorns. Heart of Thorns was one of the best periods of communication that they've ever had with the community. With leading up to the release of Heart of Thorns was so good. It was amazing.
I hope
to do that with this as well, with the next expansion. Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope we do. And I'll be honest, it's tough because this is something that I learned when I was doing a lot of work with a lot of event scheduling and things like that, even working back at a library, right? You have to put information in as many different places as possible, and you have to always assume that somebody will not engage with it where you have put it. So it has to be something that directly and clearly guides people across multiple different platforms all to get the same information. And on one hand, I do think that a lot of times MMO communities in particular are prone to jumping on bandwagons on things like Reddit, on Twitter. They hear 2 words that somebody has typed out about something and have never read any of the blog posts and have never done anything or tried to engage with the actual official news feed of the game, right? So like that is a problem, because you do as a player need to take initiative before you start talking about what you think a developer is or isn't doing. And like educating yourself and staying aware and not just listening to little snippets of hearsay is important. But Jeb, you're right. Versus the confusion about this event, as opposed to when I logged into ESO to do the Greymore housing event that Chad is talking about and that you are talking about, I popped into the game. There were 50 different ways I could engage with it. When I clicked on the thing, it took me to a page that showed me exactly, this is what we've achieved so far. This is what you need for the next tier. This is what you get at the next tier. This is how you do it. It was just immediately visible for me. And I think they would have a lot better engagement and we wouldn't have problems like this, because we've had past community events where the Guild Wars 2 community responded really well. But if they just don't know what's happening, nobody knows. No one can do it because none of us know how to. We don't understand.
There's that degree again. Nobody knows.
Yeah, that's true. It's I think I'm just at the point of like, and in my son, I really want this and this to know as well that we're not being mean or horrible or being just constructively critical about an important thing that should be occurring. Really, I feel like I don't feel like it's being. They're not like saying, you know, people are awful, they're worse, they suck, and they need to do this better, and everything else I didn't even say about it.
Someone clip just that and put it on Reddit, please.
I said they. I didn't say anyone specifically.
Cut the they out.
I could have been talking about Mukluk, okay?
Fake news, CNN Jebro.
But fake news. What would be the interior alternative? Anyway, I don't know. Bram Cracker News or something. Anyway.
It's because he's plain and boring like a graham cracker. That's why I call him Bram Cracker. That's all.
I need to try one. But I just genuinely think that it's just been such a big problem. And I think I'm hoping that we can bring attention to this even more so, and I do hope more people talk about it once again now that it's coming up, because there's an expansion coming out next year, and I'm genuinely worried that it will not be in a place where it's going to be advertised and promoted as well as Heart as Forms was in terms of everything, and communication with the community or even just the gaming world in its entirety. I know obviously it's not easy to get everywhere. It might not be a good idea to put a billboard up. I don't know. That might not be appealing to the right people, especially during COVID. I mean, I can just imagine it being something that happens. Like I can't say that is something that I would be like not surprised about. And it's just something where it's something that needs to change, and I hope it does change. And maybe from sticking to their guns with some of the stuff the promises that they do make about past stuff. And it brings up the first thing that pops into my mind is alliances in World versus World. I don't know if they've ever even brought any more communication out about that recently, but that's such a big problem that they just didn't even. They brought up alliances in World v World so long ago. It feels like years ago now, and it may have been.
That's part of the issue, is that they now have a track record for when they change their mind, just silently letting it slide away. Yeah. So that's why when they announced Dragon Response missions, my first thought was not, yay, a new thing. It was, oh no, I love strikes. Like, I thought that was the coffin for the last thing.
Well, that's the thing, because it's broken promises almost to a degree.
Legendary Armory. I hope they finish that.
Yeah, oh God, Jesus. Yeah, I remember we talked about that very briefly last time, I think, as well. And, that was such a good feature. Is it coming? When? Like some development, a screenshot, it's just anything. Like a tiny video showing a thing. Like that's it. That's all we have to do to just keep the excitement going. Even if it's going to take another year, just build something up about it. If it's not coming, just don't not talk about it. Just say, because we've had the issues with COVID, because we've got the expansion coming, we've moved resources over to this thing. This is where we feel, honesty goes so much further than I think a lot of people realize. And because people aren't stupid, and also because people need to be treated as if, they're not stupid. I mean, that's basically it. Do you know what I mean? It's like people aren't stupid. Like Mukluk says, there's all these unconscious kind of communications that you throw out when you do things as a company, and you throw out the wrong information, you know, or you'd say, like you say, they kind of casually just drop something. They don't talk about it anymore. Under everything else, unconsciously, you're thinking they don't care about that and they've broken their promise. And that is a poor experience. And then they will move on to something else. They'll keep playing and they'll just get angry and they'll go on Reddit or they'll get on the forums. And that's a real thing that does happen. And I think they need to be very aware of it. And I hope that changes. But anyway, Truce. I did enjoy the dragon response missions. I didn't mind them. I didn't know what that was going to be about. I thought it was just a thing. I was just like, going to do the first one. This is an instance. There was a lot of talking, a lot of story. Which is very good. Voice acting was awesome. The music was some of the best music I've heard in the game. And every single time a new episode comes out, I say the same thing because all the music is great. Sound effects, amazing. I like the fact that, you know, there was in the first Dragon Response mission, there was even a timer to kill the mobs as quickly as you could for like an achievement. I thought I was, because I didn't know what it was, like how much further it was. I did it quite early, but I was still racing around trying to get it done. Like it was a little challenge. Like it was cool. I liked that.
I had the wrong idea. I thought you failed the whole mission if you failed the timer, so I was like spazzing out. Like I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I quit the mission. I re-queued into another one because I was like, oh no, Metrica's doomed. It's over. It's torched. Reset Metrica. Like I left and came back. I wasted so much time because I thought you had to beat that timer.
Oh, because it was on the achievement though.
I wasn't. I almost never look at the achievements.
Oh, but that's where the timer was. Or was there another timer?
Wait, hold up. When you say achievement, are you talking about the thing in the top right corner? Or are you talking about in the achievement panel?
This was the achievement was above your bar, like where there was another timer and I didn't even see it.
Yeah, there was one in the upper right. I was kind of confused about that too. I didn't quit the mission because I'm one of those people that just stubbornly sticks in there until we fail it, if that happens. But I was like,
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a little bar up there, but I like the Dragon Response missions. I think that they have good repeatability in the sense that like there are things that you can do with them. I didn't really see them as being something to replace. It's interesting to me hearing both of you talk about seeing them as something to like replace strikes. Because I didn't necessarily think that. I thought that it was just almost kind of like a fun little unique content that we're just getting for this finale to sort of tide players over for a little bit of time. So that's kind of how I saw them. And I like that there's a lot of flexibility in them to like, you know, ally up or do things like that. Now, when it comes to the actual final fights, I didn't really care about the health bars as much as a lot of people did. I cared more that I just felt like the mechanics weren't that interesting. Like I would have almost rather had them culminate in some kind of fight that was similar to something like a strike, where each of those different bosses who have their kind of unique lore relative or like lore related names, which I thought was really cool with like, this is a thing that, you know, did this for Primordus. I thought that was really neat. I would have liked to like have something distinctive for each of them. It just kind of felt like hit it and get out of puddles and then it'll die eventually. But having like unique mechs for each would have been really memorable, I think.
Yeah, I guess mechanic wise, it was a bit. Yeah, it was a bit lacking. I mean, I think because it's repeatable stuff as well, but like end bosses and stuff, I don't know what it's like because you can do a challenge mode version, right? Or is that incorrect?
I think there is a challenge mode version, yeah.
I've not done it, obviously. I mean, I'd only finished the episode last night. I don't know if anyone's done that in the chat and wants to mention it very, very quickly. But
I did because there were like 3 of them, and when I did the second one and the third one, I was like, I'm gonna flip all these on just to see how hard it was. And then in my pug, we cleared it, and I was just like, I don't even know what that changed. So I did, and then like I know there are many classes, mostly Revenants because they're stupid, that have soloed the thing on challenge mode, and they've done it within the timer. It's close, but there's people that have done that and put it on Reddit too.
Wow. Okay. I mean, again, those people top end. That's probably what like a good challenge for them at least. But yeah, you kind of want, if you're a party of players, like people, friends, and you see challenge, right? You want that to be a challenge. You don't want it to be a cakewalk for one guy to kind of. Well, no, I'm not saying it's a cakewalk. Maybe they could come in and tell us. But you want that to be an actual challenge rather than to, not be so. Like the raids are, right? Like challenge modes in that's challenge.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty
challenge modes and raids and fractals will knock your teeth out and take your lunch money. They're crazy compared to that.
Wonder why they didn't do that in this. That's interesting.
I don't know.
Is it?
I mean,
I don't know.
They're like, the overall feel of each was, I thought, really fun. People have been asking for a while to like go back to old maps, right? Or like see how the world has changed a little bit. And part of me was a little sad at first that we weren't actually doing things like on what, like the maps themselves, like instanced things or like stuff that like popped up there or like additional events. But it makes sense that because it's such a large scale and because there's all these like unique challenges and all sorts of things, like putting it in its own, isolated instance worked. It just felt like, I don't know, a little more flavor between each would have been good. And with that challenge mode, it would be really great if that did like add, some additional unique things. But like the actual story, the actual sort of setting, the character dialogue during it, all of that I liked a lot. And I thought it was a nice shakeup. It was just maybe a little bit like, it could have been a little more, I felt, especially since we didn't end up getting quite as much with the story as I was hoping. I was kind of maybe thinking that like we'd either get a second batch of the missions or those missions would just have a little bit more challenge. Like I said, almost as if we'd had like 3 strikes released or something, right? But I'm also a raider, so trying to tune for both I think would be hard because some people don't even want to engage with the strikes, right?
I think that went from
I think like with me with Guild Wars 2, I am very much hooked on the combat system. I can do almost any mode in the game and enjoy myself just because the combat system to me is so much fun. However, with that said, what usually dictates where I spend my time is if I'm bored with one thing, I'll do something else. And I'm not going to do something if like, I'm not going to do dungeons over strikes because the rewards from dungeons are pitiful. If I have fun in both, why not do the one that pays me better? Right? So Dragon Response missions in my mind got filed away under the same category the dungeons are is. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I thought some of the quips were funny. I had fun in the whole thing, but the rewards for the amount of time spent in there was really, really poor. So I did them like 2 times each, and then I just kind of went back to my old routine of bouncing through other game modes.
Fair. Because it does feel like it's, especially because they've given it like an extra challenge, it does feel like something they wanted people to evolve through. And they're even in the blog post, I need to find it. Damn it. I had it all queued up and it's not there anymore. I believe the wording is I need to find the wording. Someone's probably gonna pop it in the chat. There we go. The Iceberg Saga Champions is a multi-chapter living world finale featuring new story, repeatable gameplay content, rewards, achievements, and masteries. In the weeks between releases, each chapter will continue to evolve with new content and ways to play.
Which I think a lot of us made the mistake of interpreting that as each chapter would add more Dragon Response missions. And now I think it's each chapter, there's a new dude standing in Eye of the North for us to throw coins at.
So my question again to both of you is, where is the issue here? Episode 8, communication.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's communication. We've been talking about this.
It's come up again. It's all about communication and the issues that they have around this. And it's we're starting to see that, and this is not the reason why I had this episode today, but it's a problem. It's such a big problem. And it's not even necessarily the content in the game, the combat, there are issues. It's an MMORPG, it's a live service. Everyone's going to have issues with different things. There are issues with different things, but I think one of the biggest issues is still the communication. And even though they have it written down, they have the whole release schedule out, which is awesome and is definitely a step in the right direction, the wording is poor. This is not what were people expecting. I'm not saying the people who write this are awful people. Again, you can clip it if you want. But like there's a serious gap in the communication, and it's an important thing that they can change and they can do well, and they can improve upon to change how people react to things that happen in the game, where they don't rage about it. They're gonna rage on Reddit. That's what it's about. It's a venting platform. It's actually kind of a healthy thing to do, because at least they're doing it in one kind of way. I don't like the way they do it, but it's getting it out, I guess. But like a simple thing saying, how will the gameplay change? What will be the things that come in? Is it going to be items? Is it going to be, we're going to add a new dragon response mission? Are we going to do this, that, and the other? Very loose, very vivid information, very vague information, sorry. It isn't what people need, especially in a time where people aren't sure whether or not they're going to have a job tomorrow or go fucking outside. Do you know what I mean? Like, people need some kind of stability. And if you can give that to them in even just a video game where they choose to spend their free time, that would be fantastic. I mean, just as an example of something I really liked from this episode, as I'm watching, just going through, there was a new system to res NPCs, like standing in a circle. I actually thought that was good. That was a cool thing. Like, it was just a cool little mechanic, which I thought was great in the game that they've added. Like, that they've changed. This is a brand new thing. And I'm just like, they do so much so well that a communication, if they could really nail that, it would help them so much in so many different ways. And I'm sorry to get on my high horse about this. I really try and hit it home. But I've been talking about this for such a long time. And because of what I do and what I'm training to do, like, communication is just not something you can, in everything you do, is important. Like, just in relationships, for God's sake, in the world we live in, and just communicating, how your game could be played, and how you can use a thing, an instruction manual. All these things are important. And it's just, I'm gonna shut up now before I start really going off on one. But you both know what I mean, right? Am I being ridiculous? Yeah. Am I being stupid, like, with what I'm talking about? I mean, am I being too?
No. I mean, it is a real issue. And I mean, the thing here is that, especially when we're going into unfamiliar territory or new formats for things, right? I think it's even more important to sort of establish what those expectations are, right? Yeah. And what's happening and how we're engaging with it. And again, in theory, like, I actually really enjoy the way that they have structured the Dragon Response missions, in theory, right? So we have, like, pieces of content that are repeatable. Great. You need that in an MMO, especially when you're waiting on a new expansion. You need something that players can do and turn over. So that's like the first step, right? Every MMO has a different answer to what that grind is. Great. All right. So then if they are 3 unique pieces of content, they're like, a little zone you go into each. How are you making that dynamic? So I like that they have done things where there's like the different allied factions, there's the difficulty ratings, there's different events you can interact with, there's different things that you can do to achieve the same goal, right? There's a lot of stuff in there that I think is good from a design standpoint. I love the idea that you could go back into these and, in theory, like, do various different things, uncover achievements, do this really fast, or like maybe try bringing a different faction with you in this run, or no factions, or up the difficulty, or like, all of that is great, and it makes repeating the process more interesting. So that's cool. Then I love that, especially because we don't have any big boss fights, we don't have a new strike, we don't have a new raid, we don't have things like that, right? I love that there is a boss you can proc at the end that then you can defeat, and that has relevance to the story and makes it feel epic, and you're like, cool, this is good. So, like, all of this structure is good, and there's rewards for it, right? So, like, in theory, there we are. With the execution of this, I think the problems that we're seeing are, one, that we don't know how it'll evolve. Like, will they add more into each of these, missions? Will we get more dragon missions? Will we, we don't know what they meant by how it will evolve. So again, there's that communication that we could use. Like, this is a point we need cleared up. And then in addition, the actual components of the content and the way that they're executed, difficulty modifiers aren't so difficult that you need a certain party, comp, mechanics, raid level stuff, that solo running is a huge achievement, that there are reasons that will make you put more time into it, right? Or that the variations of using different factions, etc., so on, this thing or that thing, affect the outcome of that mission or various rewards that you could get. So, like, the idea is good, but the execution needs to be a bit broader in scope for this to be a long-term thing. It needs to be communicated really clearly what the goals are, if there were additional goals, etc., etc., etc. And like Obi brought up in chat, we have a vendor that was added that just gives skins that are already skins you can get elsewhere for easier. So, like, the rewards also are not motivating players. And like Muck said, the rewards are also not motivating players, right? So those things should be critiqued, and the ongoing development of this should be communicated. In theory, the idea is not bad, but it's just that the execution, I think, falls a bit short, especially when this was really the bulk of the playable content we are getting for this patch until the next one.
Because, like, the evolution, like you say, the rewards, I think, Mark, I'm not sure who said the evolution of the event is maybe rewards or the vendors, something changes. I don't know what changed. That feels like it was maybe could have been done after Christmas as well. I don't know. Maybe they could have just brought that in, start of a new year, you know, these evolving events that occur. I mean, obviously, maybe if they'd had that before Christmas and they'd had this, you know, the Christmas event, Winter's Day, and then they had these evolving Dragon Response missions, you know, maybe something's going to come in with Winter's Day. You never know yet. Something could happen. It's unlikely, but I don't want to say never. I mean, but we don't know.
Well, like, that would be the best possible outcome, right? That, like, when they said that statement about they will evolve as we go on, it's not a new vendor, right? But rather that the scale of the conflicts continues to grow and that they're adding on to those levels and the ideas that they have. Even but we just don't know. So, yeah.
That's true. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to add to this, Muck? We're talking about? I don't know.
No. I feel like we've got a checklist of things to talk about, and we're like communication, communication. Yeah. We just keep kind of just turning off to the right. But yeah, I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, it's very much. I mean, I've definitely got this list of always have this. It's very much just in case the conversation isn't flowing as well as I would like, and it never happens. And it's normally like I've got this big document of like 3 or 4 pages of stuff to talk about, like things during the story that was pretty cool. I was thinking about, and just like the different Dragon Response missions, and I don't know. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the Dragon Response missions. I liked the story leading up to it. Again, I was jarred by the whole Ryland thing. I wasn't really sure why he was there immediately. It could have been a little bit of a better crossover between the previous episode and maybe even a roundup of the speech that went on in the Eye of the North with Vanguard. You know, they could have just repeated that for you beforehand. It could have been. I feel like that wouldn't have been a massively difficult thing to chuck in.
Another thing, just on that topic, I wrote this down because you sent me a copy of the script in case we decided to follow it. And one of the things I wrote down for myself to say, the whole thing in Radasum, like, that really hit close to home, because not only is my character at Asura, I actually use my home instance in Radasum every day. So I actually feel like, as far as in Guild Wars 2, Radasum is my home. So I was like, oh man, my house is under attack, you know, when I ran there. And then Ryla shows up, and I'm like, similar to you, I was like, that's kind of jarring, but all right, you know, can I have my bow? No. All right, now I like you now, Ryland. All right. So then he goes to I think it was Flunt or one of the other big heads, and he's like, I'd like to leave a legion of frost troops in Radasum. And I was like, immediately in my head, I'm like, look, I get the enemy, and my enemy is my friend. I can get behind working with the Cherry Frosty Boys, or whatever you said earlier, Rooks. I could get behind working with the Frosty Boys to fight the Bernie Boys. I got that. I'm not letting you in my house to friggin' drink my milk with your cereal. And then Flunt's like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, you just take this guy's house right over here. I'm like, are you out of your mind? We are so gonna get betrayed later while they're in our house. Like, Radasum is going to be World of Warcraft's Teldrassil in 6 months. Like, it's like, come on. Like, that was, in my mind, like, the dumbest decision making. Like, I get enemy, my enemy is my friend. Don't need to give him my access to my kitchen.
Well, yeah, there's a difference, though. I mean, I had the same thing as you. I'm not even a military expert, but in my mind, I was like, you don't let standing troops of a tenuous, like, alliance just take up residence in your city. Like, what? Like, make them go out to a field an appropriate distance away or something.
Flying. Leave them on the ground. Radisson is literally in the sky. Just have them on the ground.
Continue, because I'm going to go to the bathroom very quickly. I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Go for it.
Right, you two can continue this because I'm enjoying it. Keep going.
I mean, yeah, no, that was a terrible, big, dumb thing. And it went back to the same thing with, like, the, the stuff with, of course, now my brain's getting completely short on his name. You know who I'm trying to say, the Char leader.
Ritlock, Smoter, Bengar.
Smoter. It goes back to, like, Smoter, right? Like, people that should have more military knowledge that are acting in irrational ways that no military person, like, actually would, or, you know what I mean? Like, in combat, you actually would. And it makes me wonder a little bit if it could be that we have, like, a really strong team of writers right now that are very good at character beats and like, because we've had really good stuff like that, but who might not know as much about tactical warfare, like, which...
They are really good at making me hate Bram.
Oh, it's so funny to me. I mean, the thing is that, like, for all the critique, and, like, I mean, like Jeb has been saying, right? There's a very big difference between just, like, absolutely irrationally railing on something and, like, giving feedback about something you love. And, like, when it comes down to it, I think that seasons 4 and 5 have been my absolute favorites in the story so far. I think they're really good. I think a lot of the stuff that we've had has been fantastic. The music, the design, the art, all of that stuff, right?
I have added all that music to my playlist.
Yes, like, it's all so good, and it feels like we are really getting good stuff and good momentum and good conflicts, and I love all of that. I do think that one big story beat that is critiquable is stuff like this. Like, that does not make sense, and why would they do it? Why would nobody punish Smoter for killing her? She was one of our most valuable pieces.
By the way, I need to know. What is this accent you're doing every so often?
It's just who I am. I don't know.
Yeah, all right, okay. So you
sometimes.
Like, it's still like there's like spaces between words. It reminds me of William Shatner when he played like Captain Kirk.
I mean, I did grow up watching a lot of Star Trek, so maybe some of it made it in there subconsciously.
That's why she flirts with everyone.
Also that.
See, that is good because I'm a massive Star Trek fan. Since I was a little kid with my mum watching the original. Not when it was released originally. I'm not that old.
Jebro also likes the Green Women.
I mean, look.
That was William Shatner. That was his thing.
I'm just holding up my hands. I'm not saying anything else. I'm just saying.
But yeah, those are very weird. They are very weird dissonances, especially for societies that should know better. So I definitely had a big question mark with that too, Muck. Is the essence. Like, I liked a lot of other stuff we got in this. I would love it if Jormag did pan out to be more ambiguous than we think. It's just that, like, that's not okay. If you're gonna get troops into a city for whatever plot device in the future, that's not the way to do it. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
I have one other thing, because I know we're near the end of our time. I have, this is probably, I think prediction's the wrong word for it. Maybe a hope. I have a hope I want to share with you. So if you play through the mission and Bram starts sensing, where the invasions are going to hit before they happen, right? All right. Now, I have a long history of hating Bram. And that could be a whole, I could fill a whole, like, 15-minute video. I've been thinking about making a video, like, why I hate Bram, because I have to re-explain it every day on stream. I need to make a video and then just make a command, just like, exclamation, hate Bram, and then just send people to the video. But when he started sensing the things, my first thought is, he's going to be Primordus's champion.
I thought the same.
We're going to get to kill him later. He's going to be a boss. and there's gonna be a scene where he's like, "Do it, Commander," and then a single tear rolls down his cheek, and he goes, "Kabram." And then we run him through with the business end of our weapons, and I feel no remorse. I feel no remorse at all. Because he's got a higher body count than most of our villains.
I thought he was gonna turn a long time ago when he was having all those issues. I really thought they were building up to that, but then they just kind of went back on it.
We were talking about this on stream and how I really like the narrative parallels with this, because we have like the Char, who are more sort of affiliated with like fire and the planes and like things like that, who now have allied with Jormag. But Jormag as an entity has this stasis affiliated with it, right? This idea that like the Char, although they are visually maybe more affiliated with like fire and all of this kind of stuff, in their mindset are very static and unchanging. Yeah. And so you get this Jormag sort of affiliation. And then with Bram, we get this idea. We don't know a whole lot about Primordus as a person. We don't know a whole lot about Primordus's hopes and dreams and favorite foods, what they love watching on Netflix. We just don't know. But
even if they prefer, like, you know, some other service.
Now I'm imagining Jormag making a Netflix and chill joke.
We don't know what's up with Primordus, but in theory, we can assume that Primordus represents maybe more turmoil and a dynamic energy because of the opposition with the twins here, right? A more passionate, impassioned, impulsive energy. We don't know. But Bram is very much that, even though Bram's affiliated with the Norns and Ice. So I don't think that you thinking that he is going to be the next champion is off. I thought the exact same. However, because of the content of this episode, and because of the way they're kind of humanizing some of Rhineland's connection to Jormag and all sorts of stuff, I rather wondered if we were going to see in the future, this is my tinfoil hat, a like council of champions that was going to be more like, in order to liaison with these entities that are otherwise separate from mortal affairs, we would have people who were like connected to these forces or these dragons, who would then liaison on behalf of mortals and immortals. I don't know. I have no idea. That's my wildest.
It'd be a small council though, wouldn't it?
I was gonna say that'd be interesting if we already nuked 2 of the dragons.
Yeah, I mean, unless they get reborn somehow, or like, I don't know. It's I have no idea, but I'm also a big nerd, and Dragon Riders of Pern was one of my favorite book series growing up. And so anytime I'm like, let's be friends with the dragons.
Oh man, okay, I'm sorry. You just reminded me of something. Another thing that really bugged me in the story is we're like, all right, so we got Jormag wrecking stuff, we got Primordus wrecking stuff. Aurene, what are you gonna do to help? You got the same power they do. You inherited Zaitan and Mortros powers. What are you gonna do? And she's like, oh, I'm too powerful. I can't possibly lift a finger. I would destroy all create. And I'm like, girl, are you serious? You're going to sit here? And she's like, I'm too mighty. And then you go on the response vision with Kaith, and Kaith's like, you need to trust her, Commander. She knows what she's doing. I'm like, girl, she is 2 years old. You have got some misplaced trust. You need to stop blindly following a 2-year. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. You get the idea, though. That bothered me.
I think that there's something subtler going, because there were a few other hints that Aurene might be hiding something from us. And I think she's having trouble reconciling the energy within her. And I think she didn't want to go down because she's volatile right now, which could be really bad if she explodes.
No, she did say that. Pretty much.
Yeah, like with me emotionally, it would be bad because I would shatter into a million pieces because she's my best girl and I love her more than life itself. But it would also be bad if she did explode like a piñata of death over the rest of Syria and just, obliterated everyone. So I think there's something more with that.
Wow. Thank you for specifying that would be a bad thing.
It would be bad. I want to confirm for everybody. Would it make everything more sparkly and more rainbow? Yes. Would that be good? Yes. But would it probably also lead to widespread corruption and death?
Don't mix it with combat, please. It's already too sparkly for me. Jesus. Okay, that is quite the image to be left with, actually, after a crazy week. It's quite a good one.
Imagining Aurene like, oh god, I'm gonna explode. Be like, fly Jormag as fast as you can. Just to send her off like a missile.
I am very like I think a lot of me is like Jormag is supposed to be this what is it like this very conniving kind of manipulative dragon, right? In what she's like the Whisperer, yeah. And part of me is like with the whole Primordus and like how is this going to tie in with the expansion? Like, is it going to be a thing where that dragon is even in the next expansion? If it's not, then we've got 4 chapters to wrap this up, and we haven't even seen that dragon yet, and we've only just encountered destroyers. We're only just doing all this. Is it going to pass over? Is there going to be more episodes? But maybe there's going to be a passover. Maybe there's going to be another thing introduced other than chapters and episodes. What could it be? And sagas, because don't forget it's a saga as well. So there's going to be a 4th thing. What's the 4th thing? Chapters, sagas, episodes,
DLCs.
But they actually call it a DLC, Mark. Exactly. And you know, I feel like there's a lot to do, and whether or not they're going to pass that over to the expansion is a big question I have. Of how they're going to reconcile that, and to be honest, I don't think it would be very good to have, you know, this new dragon that we have not seen in Guild Wars 2, not new, but you know what I mean. We haven't seen him in Guild Wars 2 really. To just be kind of done with in 4 short chapters, which is what they're going to be if they're anything to go on this one. And that's where the bar's set at the moment. This is one of the chapters. This is out. This has been released. It's been a bit of time now. It hasn't evolved too much. Will it evolve in the future? We don't know. There's still time. So you know, maybe that will be the case, and things will be changing. Hats can be eaten. I want to keep mine though because it's winter. I like my beanies. But they're all stuff to think about. Maybe we can think about that towards beginning of the year and hopefully in the next episode and chapter. But for now, I think we're going to have to knock it on the head because we've been here for about 2 hours. Is there anything else you both wanted to add to the entire conversation we've had, or anything that was important that we may not have even talked about, that may have been on your mind, or even in the amount of information I wrote down? I think we actually covered most of it in a long roundabout way.
I can tell that dinner is on my family's mind. I'm getting looks right now. So
okay, just say there's a British man who's very apologetic right now.
No, I guess my only finishing thought is that, I mean, for all our discussion, for all our critique, for all the things that we take apart, right? I'm really excited. Like, I'm super excited, to be completely honest. I think that we've had such great story. I think we have such a wonderful, vibrant world as a canvas. I think we have a passionate player base and, I mean, amazing content creators like both of you and like so many other people that we know. I cannot wait to have this expansion on the horizon for us and to see what they do, because I think there have been some really big steps forward with our storytelling, with, you know, so many areas. Even with communication, there have been some steps, you know. I can see that we are pushing ahead to a new sort of re-envisioning of what Guild Wars 2 will look like in the future. And that can be kind of scary, and I think sometimes people can be kind of inclined to doomsay with it. But I think that just like a lot of the story has been teaching us, there's so much hope to be had too. And I am just really, really pumped to see what we get and what they do. And even if this last chapter was a little bit of a miss for me, I am still really hoping that the ultimate payoff will be really good, you know, because a lot of the other stuff we've had recently has been. So I'm holding out and I feel good about it. I just think there are things to talk about like we have, which is great to do and keep those conversations flowing, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, how are they going to get any kind of feedback other than on Reddit, maybe? In the forums, which are probably not the best places to have that. Yes, well said, BirdofChess. Echo what you said. Very good. Mukluk, anything to add?
I'm just reading all these very offensive anti-Asura comments in the chat right now. Apparently, a lot of people want to see the end of Taimi, not the end of Dragons. And I heartily disagree with that. I need more Taimi and Zoja in my life. I don't know if the latter will happen, but I can dream.
Yeah, they need to get a considerable amount of lines to get to have the amount they'll probably have to pay Felicia Day to to do that, unfortunately, I think. And also, I think the devs will probably just want to be there in person to meet Manisha Day. I mean, I couldn't blame him for that. That's definitely a thing. Hopefully, maybe. Okay, lovely. So we're going to go. Everyone in chat, thank you very much for watching the stream live if you were here. This was on the 11th of December 2020. I'm hoping there is going to be maybe a last episode before the end of the year. Maybe just look back over the year of everything that's been happening. Maybe I'll ask these two lovely people, if they have time in their busy schedules, maybe to come back and do that. We may do. But otherwise, this will be on Anchor as well, under the umbrella of Game Vent, which is the gaming podcast that I do, for Elder Scrolls Online, for Guild Wars 2, and my own little ranting You What Mate series, which is still being built. I hope you have if I don't speak to you or see you before Christmas, I hope you have if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. Whatever you celebrate, the holidays, Merry Holiday, Happy Holiday Times. If you don't celebrate anything, have some time off for yourself and do a thing. I don't know.
By the end of this, Jebro's like, have a good 12th month of the year.
Yeah, I'm trying to be inclusive. I'm trying. It's a long conversation, so I'm going to end it. But one last time, Bird of Chess, where can we find you? What do you do?
Yes, you can find me at twitch.tv/BirdofChess. You can also find me on YouTube, Bird of Chess, on Twitter, Bird of Chess. They're all the same. It's all Bird of Chess. You can find me on all those platforms, as well as on our Discord. We do a lot of community events. We do learning progression rating. We do all sorts of stuff. And I'm really, in love with MMOs and a lot of other games as well. So we would love to have you anytime to get hyped with us. And my ridiculous character voices will be present. So, there's that, if that's something that interests you.
Awesome. And thank you very much for coming on once again. Mukluk, tell us about yourself quick.
This has been Mukluk Douglas Bartholomew Reginald Esquire the Fourth, here guest starring with these wonderful people. If you want to see my content, I stream every single night, 931 days in a row, I believe. I'm on twitch.tv/Mukluk. My streams normally starts about 2 hours from now. Otherwise, I would totally be begging for a raid, but can't be doing that. Can't be having you guys, Jebro sit here for 2 hours. If you want to see me on YouTube...
I'm going to be to the end. I'll raid you. It's all good.
I'm on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Mukluk YouTube. Don't go to a channel just called Mukluk because they make shoes. Mukluk is apparently a shoe. And my second channel is called Mukluk Plays, which is story-driven content, not related to Guild Wars 2, but if you like me for my charming, self-proclaimed yet still humble personality, you might like that too.
Like it. Awesome. And finally, there's me, JebroUnity on most things. I shoutcast, I podcast, I stream, I do mental health stuff. I go to uni and school, and I do this full time as well. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of stuff. I have fun. I enjoy it. I am myself. I like to think of myself as a genuine content creator, very much like the two awesome guests I have today. So make sure you go and check both of them out, please. That would be very much appreciated. All the information will be in the description of wherever this is and wherever you're listening to or watching it. Otherwise, this has been episode 8 of the Lightbringers. Many things. As the title. I will see you next time. This is mainly for the purposes of the outro. Thank you very much for watching yet again. You may also wave if you would like. For the people watching.
Do the Miss America.
Oh, nice. Good technique.
Queen. The Queen. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a great December. Bye-bye.